Have you ever took a journey to the other side? Come on, take a ride. Have you ever took a journey? We gon' feel alive. You gon' feel alive.
I got to talk about this. I know I've digressed, but we're on the Cowboys. I got to talk about the race. You know, the race against Doug Donnelly during the season.
White light? You talking about white lightning?
White lightning. Hey, see, I'm a player. I've never been so tight before a game as I was for this race.
Wait, what you mean?
Oh, so here's the deal, though. T was representing the boys. He represent the Ghetto Row.
Ghetto Row.
He represent.
Hold up, Ghetto.
I'm gonna go back to the Ghetto Row.
But you gotta tell us what's Ghetto Row before you go into this.
Ghetto Row. Let me tell you something. Ghetto Row had all the brothers. For lack of a better term, you don't go to a ghetto and see all white guys. So I'm gonna be real up front with you. It's Ghetto Row. We were the only all black area in the locker room, and it was me, Dorsett. It was Drew Pearson, Billy Joe Dupree, Robert Newhouse, Ed Too Tall Jones, a guy by the name of Benny Barnes. Man, it was. And if you want to know what happened on the streets, you come through Ghetto Row. If you wanted to be talked about, you went around Ghetto Row. You know, you didn't want to be a part of that conversation. That's just the way that we were rolling over there.
So he's representing Ghetto Row in this. Okay.
So he represented Ghetto Row, and Doug was a new kid on the block, and Doug could flat out fly. Yeah. You know, he was a new wide receiver, and he was supposed to be, everything, so to speak. And so we're having practice. I mean, matter of fact, it's not practice. You're on your own practice. But the bottom line, the word got out that Doug was the fastest on the team. We said, no.
He was a track star, wasn't he?
He was a track star. We said, no. The fastest guy on the team is right over here, number 33. That's the fastest guy on the team. And so they called him out. And T took it on. I said, because T, he don't have nothing to gain. Yeah. He loses.
He got a rookie coming out of him.
Right. He got a rookie coming. He got everything to lose, nothing to gain. Yeah. I mean, although he set the record straight. But the bottom line is that we had practice that morning. We had what's called in these days we just come out there on our own and catch. The quarterbacks will come out on your own, but we're supposed to be. It wasn't mandatory. You know how that thing is. Yeah. It's not mandatory, but the receiver you need to be there. And so we're out there, and the race is set up. And and Doug, he doesn't even participate in the drills with us. He's over there eating peanut butter just like a track meet. Stretching, jogging, loosen up. Bottom line, race is like at 10 o'clock in the morning. And we ain't seen it's 9:35. We haven't seen T. Hey, this race is at 10. He can't back out. We can't afford for him to back out the race.
The reputation to get a row is on the line.
He got to be there. And so so about 9:52. T come out the locker room, man. Come out the locker room, man.
He just pulls up.
No, he's already pulled up, but he's coming out the locker room. I say, hey, man, you got to get loose. I'm his boy. Hey, you got to get loose, man. They're waiting on you, man, because there's Ron Fellows. I can't remember another. There's a couple other guys, but all I know is Fellows and Dorsett and Doug. I'm saying, come on, man. T, you sure you? I said, I got it, man. And so T,
I said, warm up for what?
Right.
So you got to stretch. He said, you going to stretch? I said, for what? I'm only running the 100-yard dash. What I got to warm up for?
Hey, that's exactly what he said. Warm up for what? I said, oh, man. I'm grabbing my head. I said, oh, man, hey, we got a whole lot. We got everything on stick. And all the boys over there on the side, we got half the team on this side and the other half of the team on this side. I ain't going to go into demographics and all that stuff. The bottom line is half the team was on this side and this half was on this side rooting for one another. And so T gets out there, man. I'm on the sideline, and when they take off, hey, I'm running right with them. I'm on the side, go. And next thing I know, I'm running with them, but they kind of leaving me. I'm like, they done passed me up. I'm kind of like, I'm yelling at them from behind, go, and he takes them, and then you know what, T? He gets his stuff, whatever his chain that he had off, picks that off, and he walks out. Doesn't he come back? Hey. The coldest episode I've ever seen in Cowboy history.
Yeah, I ran that thing, man, and everybody. First of all, when I got there, you gonna warm up? Then you gonna stretch? You gonna do that? I said, for what? I'm only running 40 yards. Why I got to get stretched out, and all to do this? I said, I'm only running 40.
Right. Yeah.
And man, when I ran that thing, and I took off, and when I took off, I ran right off the practice field. I ran right out the building, right off the field, and just went home. I said, that's it. I'm gone.
probably the most climatic.
I'm gone. And everybody
entrance and departures I've ever seen in the history.
That's a mic drop moment, huh?
In the history of the practice field, there's a lot of things that happened in our practice field, but that moment right there, I mean, this was practice. We had all the press was there.
Everybody.
The press was there.
And they knew this race was happening.
They knew the race was happening.
Oh wow!
And so
you gonna warm up? I'm saying for what?
And so how they cover that? And I'm thinking in the '70s in Dallas. How they cover that in the newspaper the next day?
They let it go. They didn't even mention it.
Yeah.
Doug didn't win. They let it go. Hey, because
Yeah.
T1, they just let it go. It was one of those scenarios. I mean, he was the man. He was the man.
Yeah.
And that's crazy. That's crazy.
White lightning. I said, okay. White lightning. Okay.
Hey, that's what I'm talking
I told him
about.
I come from the hill.
Yeah, I hear
From
that.
the hill and out of Quipper, from the hill.
Yeah, that's them walking up them hills. That's what it did for you, right?
Yes, right.
See, you've been in Cali, we would have had you on the beach over there running them beaches, but you had them back in the woods, them Pennsylvania hills up there. Is that what you're running on?
Running up in the hills, in the woods against the bear. We got bears. I used to say lion, tigers, and bears, but it wasn't quite that. But we had bears.
Yeah, well, I remember them bear races. The most important thing was that the most important thing is that. Don't be last. Whatever you do. Yeah. Hey, but so think about this right now. Hey, I'm thinking about it right now. 99-yard run, 10 players on the field. I mean, it's not only cold-blooded to have a 99-yard run, but he's got a 99-yard run with only 10 players on the field. Talk to me about that feeling, man.
Yeah, I tell you, for one thing, how it came about was the fact that I heard the play being called on the when the kick after the kickoff was made, and Ron Springs muffed the ball on 1 inch yard line, and I was like, oh my God! So I wasn't on the receiving team of the kickoff, and when I saw that, I was like, oh my God! So what happened was I ran out on the field thinking that we had a play. I heard a play that it was designed for me. And so I came running on the field, and I got Ron Springs. I told him, run, because Ron was the one that muffed the ball, couldn't think of it. Ron muffed the ball on the 1 inch yard line. And so Ron, I told Ron to get out. I ran out on the field because I heard the play being called on the sideline. So I ran, because we could run that play with 2 backs or the 1 back. And I thought I heard the 1 back formation. And I told Ron to get out. And Ron had the wherewithal. He ran out, but then he ran back because he realized that we only had 10 men on the field. No, we only had 10 men on the field. I'm sorry. I'm getting confused.
Yeah, no, that's right. No,
we had 10 men on the field. But Ron understood the fact that we had to have that we didn't have to have 11 men on the field.
Yeah,
you could run a play.
Once he went on the side, he knew he had to stay over there, right?
Right. And so he came back. He said he ran back out there, and because he said when I told him to get out, he knew what the play had been called when he got to the sideline, and they told Ron, "You got to get out. You got to get out. You got to get out on the field because you got to run the ball."
Right.
And so I went out there and said, we're going to run, dive, 41 dive.
Right.
41 dive. And we could run that from single back or
from double back.
For
from I
2
formation,
backs.
right,
Yeah, I formation or split back.
Split back, right.
And so Ron Springs had the wherewithal to understand the fact that, his way he said, hey, he said, there's no way on God's earth I was going to run out on that field. We on the 1 inch yard line that he already done muffed on. He said, there ain't no way on God's earth. He said, I'm going to run out there on that field and we got to call a timeout or something else or somebody, a player offsides. He said he knew that we could run and at that time, I didn't know that either. But you don't have to have 11 men on the field.
Right.
You could run a play without 11 men on the field. And so Ron understood that, so he says, "Hey, I'm not going back out there. I'm not running back out there on that field."
So what made the play so great, though, the thing, and I know we're running short on time. What made the play so great, though, is the fact that It was a dive, so it was right off the middle. It's right off the center and guard, right off there. When T comes through the line, he hits my man with the juke move. Those sideways moves hit the side, and next thing you know, he's off to the races.
Yeah.
You know, now he's running. I've never seen you carry the ball with two hands like this across. I mean, my man, I've seen him stroke. You know, but I had never seen him do this kind of stuff. And you took it 99 yards. That's one of the coldest runs ever. And that's what we're talking about. You know, and I'm talking about the TNT. I take pride in knowing that was part of the TNT connection. For I didn't run the ball, but hey, you know what? I'm part of the TNT, so I'm taking credit on that as well. So T, you know, I know we're getting short on time. I know we got a lot of things going on. But you know what I was thinking about, though?
What's it?
This is breakfast for the boys, you know? And so here's the deal, man. You know, when I get up in the morning or before a game, you know, I like to have some grits and some eggs and some sausage, you know? And what I do is I put my grits and I put the eggs, scrambled eggs inside. I cut my sausage and put it up. What's Tony Dorsett's favorite breakfast meal? Now, I didn't do this for games, but
I didn't do much eating before a game. I just,
but not before a game. This is what do you like now?
Now?
Yeah, what do you eat? What's your favorite breakfast?
Scrambled eggs with some bacon and maybe a little sausage, or I might have some grits. You know.
Oh snap! See, them grits is in the house over there now.
Hey, you going sugar or salt?
I'll do sugar.
There you go.
You do sugar.
Sugar.
Oh, okay. All right. I like it. I like it. Hey, so hey, another question. You know, we're trying to close it out, or we just keep it rolling. Though.
Yeah.
Hey, pet peeves. You got any pet peeves, man?
Not really.
No.
Yeah.
Because
What about you,
Yeah,
boss?
I mean-
You done took this conversation sideways. I'm interested. What pet peeves you got? What's your favorite?
I got one for sure.
What you got?
My pet peeve is being in a fast lane behind a guy going 50 miles an hour. I mean, I just want to just jump out the car and just wring their neck. I mean, in the HOV or the fast lane, it just drives me crazy, man. You know, why they got to get over in that lane and go 20 miles an hour, you know?
Yeah.
And so since I've kind of digressed, and like I said, this is breakfast with the boys. There's nothing on our menu that you can't have. So tell me this. Your wife, you're talking to your wife. I know I've digressed. We kind of go, but you're talking to your wife. What's the worst word you want to hear from your wife?
When?
What's the worst thing she can tell you? Okay, I'll help you out. So I'll help you out.
We editing this.
You
so
talking
it's all
about?
good.
You talking about?
I'm
Just
talking
in
about
life in general.
in life in general. See, because here's a word for me. So here's a word for me. So maybe when my wife tells me sure, I'm screwed. I say, hey baby, you want to do this? Sure. Oh, when I get to sure, dog, I'm finished. I'm out. You know, it's the worst. Hey, what do you like? Do you like this or that? Sure. I was like, come on, man, help me out. You know, hey. Yeah. So talk to me. Tell me about your wife. Talk to me.
Hey, man, I don't have anything like that. Anything like
oh,
that,
you take an easy route. This ain't the Dorsett I know. He taking the easy route out. Hey.
I gotta keep this clean and keep this nice, and don't let everybody know our business at the house.
I better watch out. I better watch out, huh?
My wife, she's a good wife, and she's always good. But the thing about it is, with me, she wants me to try to do is to eat everything, and then to clean my dishes. Well, you know, after I eat and all that stuff, and I'm like.
Oh shoot! I don't want my wife to hear this podcast. She wants to make sure you clean the dishes. Hey, I hope Mrs. Hill ain't listening to this. All right, we good.
I need to be washing these dishes and everything. I'm not gonna be washing the dishes and doing all this. I gotta wash the dishes, pay the rent, run the vacuum cleaner. I used to like the vacuum cleaner. I used to love to do that, man.
Hey, well, T, man, and it's been cool knowing that we'll look back on this as the inaugural first episode of Breakfast with the Boys. We're gonna have to bring the sugar or salt, maybe addition of grits, courtesy of Tony Dorsett. But Pops, how you want to close out our first episode together, man?
And you know what? Hey, you know this is what you call a real T and T, because you're a T as well. You know, we got the beats from the east, the best from the west. And I guess you got to be the best from the Midwest or Southwest because you're hanging out with Pops. So, you know, hey,
there you go.
You know what I'm saying? You know, I know we got one of our boys is not here, Dom. So Dom, I know that you'll be at our next one. We rocking and rolling. But hey, this is what it's all about. When you listen to us, we're gonna keep it, fun. We're gonna take a little bit. And what I want to close though is always about this. It's always in our family. I want to have a family segment. T, tell me a little bit about your family in closing, and that's the way we're gonna roll.
Well, let me tell you something. I got one of the best families I think the best family that anybody can have. I got my lovely wife Janet, and I got my 3 daughters. I have my son, my grandsons, and the thing about it is, me personally, when I never thought I was going to get married. I just said, I'm going to do this. I'm just having a good time. I'm not going to get married. I got married. Now I got my daughters. I have my grandsons, and that's one of the best things to ever happen to me, man. Was to have children. To have children, and I'm being the grandfather, and that's great because when my grandsons come, they call me pop pop. They call me pop pop. They run pop. They see me at the events and stuff, man. And it just makes me feel so good, to see that my son, my daughter, have had children, and these children are being taken care of the way they're being taken care of. I mean, they're doing everything right, and it's wonderful, man, to be able to have grandchildren that you can send them home.
Well, I hope Mrs. Hill listens to that. Hey, in closing, Anthony, I think the key thing is that, we just want to have family. We want that's what our podcast, Breakfast with the Boys. When you're talking about when you got some orange juice, some grapefruit with a little bit of sugar around the rim over there, what I'm talking about to you.
Yeah.
You're getting some cereal over there and doing it right. That's what it's all about. But hey, on the first podcast, guys, I just want to let you know that we're gonna keep it rolling, and I just wish we had more time with the original number 33. And by the way, the thing that we're closing on that we left off is that not only was he an All-American at the University of Pittsburgh, not only was he number 33 at the University of Pittsburgh, not only is he a Hall of Famer, not only is he a college Hall of Famer, but his jersey is retired at University of Pittsburgh, and they're really doing it right. I was digging it. What'd you think?
Hey, we had a good time. There's some good stories, but what hit me is throughout all that, we didn't even get a chance to talk about what it was that made you want to start the podcast. And for background, y'all, so Pop's over here, he retired now just over a year ago, and I can't believe the fact that he's laid low as long as he has, but he's been talking about starting this podcast for about, let's call it the last year, and I've been telling us I won't start one with you until you listen to some podcasts so you know what it is. And here we are. We've started. You've been listening to some podcasts, but you never got into exactly what it was that got you to want to start this and how we were going to do it together.
Yeah, well, the thing that we wanted to do, though, and that's a good point, because I've never focused on the nuts and bolts of where we are today, what made this group happen. And so, I wanted an opportunity, and one is to be able to have some camaraderie with my teammates and other players in the field. I also want to have the opportunity to be with my son. I mean, you're talking about family, being able to do something with your family. Nothing more important than that. My dad was my agent over there, and one of the things that I really missed or didn't take advantage of was just really embracing the love and the fellowship that he and I had, and not just with you, but with the rest of our kids and et cetera. And I thought this would be a great opportunity. And then again, and as well, when I'm talking about going into it, I rededicated my life to Jesus Christ in 87, 88. I think it was somewhere right around there. I rededicated my life. But one of the things that I always wanted to talk about was family. What family means to me, what family means to you, and what could I have done differently? And again, I believe as in Philippians 4:13, we can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. It was all pre-planned. There's no thing about that. It's what lessons did I learn from my experiences of being a father, being a Christian, being a teammate, again, of a brother like Tony Dorsett, and being able to share that with our listeners and share that with people. I didn't want that traditional, How many yards did you run? How many touchdowns did you score? You know, what was it like that? I want you to find out what it's like to be Tony Hill, Tony Dorsett, Tony, you know, I mean,
anybody we bring on,
we bring on. But I want you guys to understand, you know, there's dedication that's involved. But, you know, we know that. I mean, to be a realist, you know, to be a professional athlete, to be a good professional athlete, it's hard work. People, when I say people, fans, they don't understand that, you know. I mean, there are sacrifices that are made to be at the top. They think that just because God's given you God's given ability, it isn't just all God's given ability. Although it is God's given ability, but there's more to it in terms of fine-tuning the ability that God has given us. And this is an opportunity to talk about. That's something I wanted to do.
Yeah, and you say that, you know, people don't really understand what it takes. From your vantage point, you know, we talk about podcasts, you talk about social media. When you were playing, you know, you had the media, the sports beats writers who could talk to you, but not everybody and their mother had a podcast or a microphone talking about players. When you say they don't know what it takes, man, how do you feel about players in this era who have to listen to people who've never done it, that seem to be the loudest voices? You know, I think about the guys on ESPN. I think about some of these guys on podcasts. I think about what Cam Newton went through not too long ago, where he said, listen, I've been there. I've been to the mountaintop. Whether you like my opinion or not, you better respect it. How do you feel about that?
Here's the deal. I mean, contrary to perhaps what you may believe or the others believe, I believe Cam Newton's dead on. I think he was dead on in terms of there's game players and there's game managers, and I believe that certain people get treated a certain way and don't get respected for what they bring to the table. I.e., Cam Newton would be a great person to bounce things off. As he said, here's a guy. He was a 5-star in high school. He's an All-American. He's a guy that played in the Super Bowl. Yeah. He has been there. He has done that. Tony Dorsett and myself, you know, I wasn't a 5-star. I was recruited highly. I wasn't an All-American, but I was on it. I don't know if I was the second team All-American or not. I got to look back on that. But the bottom line is that I played in the Super Bowl, superstar, super teams. I've been there. I know what it takes to get there. And then I got a guy who's never been hit in his life tell me how I should run the ball and when I should run the ball and where I should run the ball. I believe that folks need to know all about that, and that's our opportunity. I mean, I remember back in the day, and I'm sure we'll probably get back. There was a certain columnist in the Dallas area that, in my opinion, that was going after certain brothers, such as Dorsett and myself, just to get a name for himself, but it never played it down. Didn't know what it was all about, and those things need to come up. Those things need to come up, and I'm sure within our podcast at some point in time, I want that to come out because I want people to understand, you know, this is a blessing. You know, we've all got a blessing, but there are trials and tribulations that are associated with our and consequences with our actions.
Mm-hmm. Yes, certainly. So when you think about some of these columnists or folks who are just saying anything to get a view, to get a listen, you know, Breakfast with the Boys, we're keeping it real, huh? You're saying this is going to be real, unfiltered, but authentic conversation. Nothing that you want to hear, but what you need to hear.
Basically, but you know, I want you to. I do want to take a step back on that as well because we are going back there. But I guess that's going to be censored from the standpoint of the content that we discuss. Does that make sense? You know what I'm saying? Yeah, we're gonna keep it real, but we're not. I'm not here to bash anybody in particular because I want to be uplifting, but I want to be informative. You know, and I think if we can do that without cracking a whole egg box. Yeah, we're gonna have to crack a few eggs, okay? You know, we're gonna have to spill some yolk, you know, to get this right. But you know, and to let people know what's going on. But we don't have to bust a whole carton of eggs, and that's what we're gonna do. And we're gonna give a different perspective out here. I got you know, you're my son, and I used to jump on you about basketball or jump on you, but that was the way I was taught. And perhaps maybe we might find out there might be other ways of I guess what's the word I'm looking for
I think
skinning a cat.
I think we know there's a couple ways to skin a cat by now, huh?
Well, I think that's possible. That's what it's all about, though. You know.
Yeah. No, and you know, you said that you want to do this about family, and as I think about you've telling me you want to do this for a while. What it was for me is, man, I know 15, 20, 30 years from now, I want to be able to look back on having this podcast with you. I want to be able to have Millie, Ella, Cross, you know, be able to hear their Pop's voice and know that when I'm bugging them to spend time, this is what you do. You spend time with your family. So for those of you who might not know, I moved 2 blocks down from Pop and Mimi, as what they go by now. Just because family is important. So as we start this podcast, that's always going to be an element of it, man. I'm curious for you now that you are a pop. So you've raised us, you got 4 grandchildren, man. What's something that you think is important that you want to make sure you express throughout our time on the podcast?
I think a really good one that my father is the simplest thing that you can say. My father just said, just keep on living. Every time something would happen, something would go on, and Pops, man, why are you making me do this? Why are you making me do that? He said, hey, just keep on living. You'll understand. Because the one thing about being a father, a parent, and that children don't understand until they get to another age is that, and I can only speak for myself, everything I always did, I always thought was in the best interest of my kids. Always. That was always my motive, always. And for some reason, sometimes children or adults with children, they lose that perspective. And when you have a child, there's no better way to explain that hey, you know what? I can feel comfortable that I did the best that I could do. Now, you or my daughters may not feel that way on certain times, but I can tell you right now, with God as my witness, that everything that I've always done was in my best interest. And not in my best interest, that I thought was in the best interest of our family and our kids. And that's one of the lessons that I think that that my dad. I remember my dad cut my hair, man. I almost wanted to beat him up, man. I didn't even want to go to school, And the bottom line is all he was doing was give me a clean cut look, And he wasn't doing that to hurt my feelings, Or when we played sports, for example. I mean, before a game, I'd play a game, man. And I kind of did that with you guys. But before a game, if I was pitching, I'd be in the front yard pitching before the game, before we went over there. And then at the game, my dad, if I struck out, and I didn't do that very seldom, and the crazy thing was because of what he taught me, because he would jump on me right then and there. He told me, don't you even think about grinning after striking out. Well, you need to find a way to get to bat. But that was his way of teaching it. But the bottom line is that he was doing what he thought was in the best interest of me. And the bottom line is that obviously it worked. I mean, I played in the game, man. I struck out 18 batters in the game and lost. You didn't hear me. I struck out 18 batters and lost. You know why?
Yeah, let's hear why.
Because I didn't listen to my father. My dad was behind the thing, giving me a curveball. I went fastball. I had 2 strikes. I couldn't see him. My dad behind the catcher, he gave me a 2 sign. I said, I'm shaking it off. I shook it off. I went fastball. My boy hit it out the field on the right side field. I'd already struck him out twice. He hit a home run. I was a pitcher that, man, I had heat. I threw smoke, but I was a little wild though, so that kind of intimidated batters too. You can throw heat and then when you throw a strike every now and then, you gotta was there. So I had the ability to get at least 3 strikes.
Yeah.
So that was the case, in that particular case. But the thing is though, he was making the sacrifices that I may not have appreciated then, but I do now. And the last thing going with that is him being my agent. My dad was my agent. You know what? Here's the deal. Yeah. When he asked me to be my agent, I said, man, sure, you can be my agent, Dad. But the bottom line is I didn't expect him to cash in on that deal. and then he cashed in, and now I got my dad as my agent. But here's the deal, though. Best thing ever happened to me. Because you know what? I would have spent a lot of money. I was going to live the life of a professional athlete.
Yeah.
And Pops told me, he said, hey, no, buddy. This is our agreement, And there's nothing worse than having your pops as your agent monitoring your money as a professional athlete. It's one thing, I'm monitoring your money when I'm sending you to school. What'd you spend that on? Yeah. I got Pops telling me, hey, I just gave you, and he said, I just gave you. I put this in your account, because he was my manager. And he said, what happened to the money? I'm not explaining what happened to the money. Really? So now I got to change the way I'm operating, But it's the best thing ever happened to me because I knew everything that he did was in my best interest. I can't count on an agent. He might not have known everything, but he would have done what it took to find out. I couldn't count on that an agent. There's no better security than that. There's no better security than what I had, and I did enjoy it, but I wish I'd have taken it to the max.
Yeah, I gave you a hard time in the last episode when I was doing Tony Dorsett's intro. I said, man, your rap sheet's not that long, but when you think about professional athletes and they're the 1% of the 1%. So not just athletically, but mentally. And to hear you say, how my grandfather shaped you, I think back to an interview I heard Vince Carter do with his mother, where he had 38 points out of the 45 his team scored. He came home thinking he was the man. His mom said to him, "Well, you missed 4 free throws." And that those type of things stick with you. But I'm thinking about the success you had, not just to make it to the Dallas Cowboys, have a successful career. But, people don't know you were drafted out of high school as a pitcher, as you talk about your 18 strikeouts. Or people don't know that you averaged 31 points a game in high school. I do, because you never let me forget it. But
okay,
you got to give your credit where it's due. So, when you think about the lessons that you instill here, man, how much of that in your relationship with your parents do you accredit to the success you had?
Oh yeah, here's the thing. The bottom line, with God being number one, and that took me a few years to understand that God truly was number one. Understanding that, my parents, without a question, unequivocally, the key, without other than God being in their life. So now that I understand that God, understand that relationship with God, and that's one of the things that I really miss or I regret that I had with you guys. I wish I would have given you guys more experiences with the Word as children. I was different from the standpoint when I grew up. We played sports on Saturdays and Sundays, so that's why I didn't go to church. I mean, I didn't go to church that often because we had games on Sundays. And you guys did too. We were a sports family. We had sports every day. But that's one of the regrets that I regret, that I didn't spend more time in church, so to speak. But having my parents over there, my dad was on me all the way. And the thing about it, I had a great dad from the standpoint of, if I'm playing ball, he's good to go. I got to admit, academics, he's all right. He's all right on it, but he was good to go. Shoot, you go play football, basketball, baseball, whatever the case may be, and watch it to see what it's all about. But I had a mom, though, there's another blessing, that wasn't going that route. She wasn't gonna. I had to get my grades if I was gonna be able to play. And so she had. I used to think that my mom definitely played a huge role in my life, as well as my dad.
Yeah. So, you said it took you a long time to fully grasp what it meant to have God at number one in your life. And, I can attest to growing up and us having 4 different games at 4 different times between me and my sisters. Now that we don't have you running around, as crazy, you still got some grandchildren. What does your relationship look like with God today, and how do you make sure to prioritize Him?
Well, I when I say that, I could probably be a better steward, without a question. But He's number one in my life. There's not a day that I don't go without speaking to Him. Every night before I go to sleep, I visit with Him every night. Every meal that I have, I ask for His grace. Every meal that I have, so He's a part of my life, and I reference Him every opportunity that I get when I'm visiting with folks, in terms of how blessed I am and how thankful I am and how grateful I am because of these opportunities. And so, but that's been the change. When I rededicated my life, I was one of those guys that you probably didn't want to see. I was trying to tell you everything, what you need to do, how you need to do it, when you need to do it. And it's the only way God would do it, as opposed to letting my actions speak louder than my words. But that's growth. When you talk about Jesus Christ, my biggest thing is that I was always concerned about what I was going to lose by becoming a Christian. We used to have a couple Christians on our team. It doesn't have anything to do with the fact that I didn't like them. I just thought they were just probably the dullest people in the world. Just ain't no happiness, ain't no fun there. There just ain't no fun. Until I come to find out, it's not about what I stood to lose by bringing Jesus Christ into my life. It's what I stood to gain. Until you get that message, Anth, you can't take it to the next level.
Yeah, and that's the truth. So as we gear up and have breakfast with the boys, we can expect to hear about some family, hear about some faith, and to hear about some sports. What are you looking forward to most about, continuing this podcast?
It's a smorgasbord, man.
It's a smorgasbord.
It's all you can eat. That's what I'm looking forward to, man. Hey, every day, we can go out there and just enjoy the meal that's put out there, and knowing that we don't have to worry about eating that, or that. We can eat that, or that. And that's what it's all about. That's what's going to make us a little different.
I love that, man. So we'll have a wide range of guests that we'll bring through on Breakfast with the Boys, and there will be more behind what we're trying to highlight and how we do it. So let's say see us here next Saturday for the next episode of Breakfast with the Boys.
There you go. And for those that are listeners, we will have Tony Dorsett back on because I got a lot more that I need to share with my boy.
So do I.
Have you ever took a journey to the other side? Come on, take a ride. Have you ever took a journey? We gon' feel alive.